Good afternoon, and this is just a reminder to please make sure your cell phones are on silent or mute. And also note that the UConn locker room is now open to the media. We're joined by head coach Geno Auriemma, along with student athletes Aaliyah Edwards and Dorka Juhasz. We will begin with an opening statement from the head coach, followed by questions for the student athletes.
Thank you. The NCAA Tournament does a lot to people. Brings out the best in some people, brings out the worst in some people, and that's why it's so exciting, I think, to find out which teams are going to be playing their best and which teams are going to struggle, and so you always worry about that going into especially the first game. You're always worried about that. Doesn't matter who the opponent is, and it doesn't matter what seed you are or they are. So it was really gratifying today to see us come out and start the way we did and compete with the energy that we had and the focus that we had, and then get amazing performances from Aaliyah and Dorka, and I just think that's a great way to start, and hopefully we can build on that Monday night.
We will now take questions for the student athletes. If time allows, we'll follow up with any virtual questions. For the in-person folks, please wait until the microphone is handed to you to ask your question, and please identify yourself along with your affiliation.
Pat Eaton-Robb from the Associated Press. Aaliyah, career high today. At what point do you realize that the other team doesn't have an answer for you, and how do you respond when you figure that out?
I think that we started the game off really well, and we hit them with the first punch. And I think that from the jump ball, I knew personally, individually, that I'd be able to dominate inside, and I think Dorka had her own too, and I think that we just flowed together as a team. I think we had a lot of assists as well throughout the whole game, and I think that we just capitalized on every possession that we could.
Lila Bromberg with the Hartford Current. Aaliyah, can you walk us through that moment in the first quarter when you scored the N1 layup on the fast break and dapped up the fans in the student section? Just kind of what was going through your head and how special that was?
It was nice. I was kind of falling into the crowd anyway, so I felt the energy and, the love from the student section. We're playing in Gampel. It's the first game here, and you could feel the energy, feel the love from that atmosphere, and I think that everyone on the team loves that energy from them, and we have the best nation of fans in the world, so it was a great moment.
From CT Insider. Aaliyah, you were named a third-team All-American earlier this week. What was your reaction to getting that honor, and where is one part of your game that you want to see improve even more?
It's kind of funny, all Canadian, all Americans, almost like a dual citizenship in a way. But I'm just honored to kind of be up there, with Paige winning it and Nafisa and other alum who've been represented. I'm just grateful to be a part of that and put the name out for UConn.
Gabrielle Levine with the Next, and this is for either Dorka or Aaliyah. This is now the second year that college athletes can profit off of NIL, but in those 2 years, there's been no change to the rules that have largely excluded international players like yourselves from benefiting in the same way. And I'm just wondering, what are your thoughts on, the lack of progress or any change to the rules in that time? Are you at all disheartened or discouraged to see it, given the on-court success that you and your, international teammates have had this year, but the fact that you can't really capitalize on it in the same way that domestic players can?
Mm-hmm. I would just say, as I can speak for all of our international students, that, that's not something that's super important for us. Obviously, just seeing that, our teammates are so successful at it. Obviously, when the NIL started, we were kind of hoping that we're going to be included. And we know that, UConn is always working for us, and they're trying to, fight for change. and they say it's gonna come. Who knows when? But I know that they're fighting for us. They're trying to find ways for us to capitalize on that. But as for that, we came here to play basketball and get our education, and that would just be an extra. But hopefully, for obviously not me, but for the future, international student athletes that come to the United States, that hopefully they can find a way for them to capitalize in some ways.
Vicky Fulkerson from the New London Day in Connecticut. Aaliyah, Dorka has said a lot of nice stuff about you lately, like when you were MVP of the Big East tournament. I was wondering if you could say what it's like to have her as your, a front court duo, and like you said, you both get a lot of assists, and you've been dominating in the paint lately. And I was wondering what you could say about Dorka.
Yeah, I would say about Dee, she's very humble off the court, but once you get on the court, she's fierce. And I don't think that anyone should take that lightly. And she's a force inside and outside. And I think that as a team, we love that about her because, she's unpredictable in that way because, she can capitalize down low, but also on the perimeter, she can knock in that three that everyone knows that she can. So I'm grateful to be playing with her because if I'm not open, I know that she's going to hit that high-low and, knock in that shot. And I think that, with last year when she wasn't playing in the tournament towards the end, it's great that she's back and she's healthy, and I think that she's brought a lot to us and a lot to me leadership-wise because she is a vocal leader for us and for me personally, and I look up to her, and I think that she's going to do great things when she leaves here, and I'm grateful to be spending this last year with her.
Megan Gower, her hoop stats for either of you. Can you talk about the spark that Caroline gave you off the bench today? She had 12 points, 4-4 from the floor.
Yeah, I mean, she's been great. As hard of a season that she has, a lot of ups and downs, and just going through a concussion protocol, it's something that you can't really force. And for her, I think it was super hard to kind of just keep waiting. Like hopefully the time comes when she's able to play. But with headaches and a lot of symptoms, like. She just, there was a lot of ups and downs for her. So it's amazing to see her, go out there, like, getting more comfortable with contact and, knocking down shots. Just, and obviously being on the perimeter just gives a lot of space. Her, AZ, Lou just spacing out the court. Like, there's a lot of more, pain points, not just from us post players, but for them, driving. And, she can score a lot of different ways. And it was just great to see her just, being confident, driving the ball, passing, and, she had an amazing pass to me, and I was like, oh, I didn't know you have that, but she's been amazing. And, we're very happy for her because we know how hard it is. It's not just like a rolled ankle that you can play through, it's your head, it's your brain. So we're just happy to have her back, and hopefully, she keeps getting more comfortable, more confident, and she's going to be great for us, throughout this tournament.
Maggie Vanoni from CT Insider. For either of you guys, what was your reaction to seeing Nesh's block there at the end? And how does it help to have 10 available players during the tournament?
I think me and Dee both were like, we need to replay that and look that up on the big screen. So I think that we're all just like happy for Nesh because, she's a hard worker, and when she makes big plays like that, she doesn't really take much credit for it, but we make it known that, she did a good job.
And what I would just like to add that, like she knows, like if she makes some mistakes, you could see that she's the first one running back, and trying to steal a ball or do like a play like that, And I think, she's been working a lot. And, it's hard to come to UConn, as a freshman. I can imagine, just getting adjusted and, seeing her getting more comfortable, learning from her, guards, and just listening. I think, she's been tremendous. Like her growth been tremendous, and just excited, when she's getting the game. Like she's like calm, and her personality is just crazy. Like if you see her off the court, it's just always laughing, joking around, and the minutes on the court, she's like kind of have this like straight face, and so we're super happy for her. And just having obviously 10-player rotation, it's been great for her. Just letting us be a little bit more aggressive, pass a lot, and that's just why we want to be on defense.
We'll take one last question for the student athletes right here in front.
Yes, was actually going to kind of build off of that question. Like, you guys pressed a little bit earlier today and just were able to get kind of out there defensively. So being able to finally be at the healthiest you guys have been this season, how does that help defensively do what you guys want to do longer term?
It helps us to be more disruptive. I think Coach said it best to us before the game, like we want to force them to make plays and not just run their plays. So I think that, going into that mentality throughout the whole tournament, and especially for Monday, I think that our defense today helped us with our transition, and it leads to that and leads to us getting buckets. So just going off that same wave, I think that will be good.
Thank you, ladies. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
And for those that didn't hear, she said there's 17 minutes left for the UConn locker room. And now we will have questions for the head coach. The gentleman right here in the gray shirt.
Coach, I don't obviously, playing a lot of big schools throughout the year. I don't know how much you knew about Vermont coming in, but did you have a plan or some of the players you were looking at to really stop early on as you did?
Yeah, it's impossible for us to have a scouting report on every single team in the country. But then once the brackets are announced, then you've got a couple days to find out as much as you can. And all the films that we watched, two things struck me about their team. One, defensively, was they have a game plan. They have their rotations down. They know how they want to play. They've played true to that for the last 17 or whatever games, that they've won in a row. And offensively, they run their stuff and they execute their stuff. And they shoot, 32 threes is a lot. But I don't think any of them were out of the offense, out of the ordinary or desperation. That's the shots that they wanted. And I just like how well organized they are and how well they run their stuff on both ends of the floor and how well coached they are. And our preparation for Vermont wasn't any different than it will be for whoever we play Monday night, or when we play Villanova, or when we play Texas. It's the same, just different people.
Lila Bromberg with the Hartford Current. Geno, Aaliyah had as many points in that first quarter as, Vermont did as an entire team. Just how did she set the tone for you guys early, and just what are your thoughts on her, dominant performance today?
One of the things we tried to get across was whatever you want to happen on the offensive end, it can't start when you cross half court, right? It's got to begin when you are on the defensive end and how hard you're willing to work on the defensive end to create those opportunities, to create those transition opportunities, to create sprinting down the floor and Anika pushing it, the mismatches that we want. And I thought our defense did exactly that. And when we got down to the other end, I just thought Aaliyah was active. Sometimes, it's hard to find people, but it wasn't easy to find Aaliyah today because she was constantly moving, she was constantly involved. And when the shot went up, there were, I don't know how many opportunities that she created for us because she was so aggressive on the offensive boards. And when Aaliyah's making that mid-range jump shot, it just changes, how our team has to be defended. So it's one of the better games. I thought that first half that she played, I thought was one of the better halves of basketball that I've seen her play since she's been at Connecticut.
Noni, CT Insider. Just a quick health update. Aubrey only played 6 minutes today, and we saw Luke kind of look like she got the wind knocked out of her or something, and didn't come right back. Didn't check back into the game after she came out.
Yeah, Aubrey's been battling that back issue, and today it was acting up a little bit. So she got some work done at halftime, but I don't like the way she looked. And there was no, I felt like we were going to win the game, and there was no sense of urgency to put her in and see if we can get her more rest for Monday. And Lou was running back on defense, and I don't know whether she tripped over somebody or just tweaked something, but when she fell down, she kind of grimaced and same thing. I didn't want to take any chances.
Since you've had 10 players the last 4 games, it seems to have opened things up for Aaliyah and Dorka down low. How have they taken advantage of, even though the kids who've come back have not played up to pre-injury form yet, how has the team taken advantage of just having the bodies out there and being able to spread the offense?
It was really hard in February, especially. They were constantly double teamed and triple teamed, and that's not to say that they weren't today a bunch of times as well, because it happened today. It just can't happen as often, and having some of the wing players that we have now, when the defense runs back, they have to run wide. And when we didn't have them, the defense just ran back into the lane. So there was no room for Aaliyah or Dorka to do anything. It was a real slog, and that's why the games were played the way they were played a lot of times. So we couldn't do as much defensively, and we couldn't do as much offensively, and now you see the difference, and the results are what they are. I'm just great it's happening. I'm just glad it's happening. It only took 5 months.
Hey, Coach. Similar to the question that I had for your players, we're in the second year of the NIL era and March Madness, and that time there's been no change to the rules, much less really any clarification to what the rules are for international players. I'm just wondering, what are your thoughts on that issue and the lack of change that we've seen on that front? And with that, the disparities it's sort of created within your own team, where your international players have had a really prominent role this year, but they can't necessarily take advantage or capitalize on that with NIL when they're on the biggest stage in March like a domestic player can.
Well, college basketball, the NCAA, has absolutely nothing to do with that rule. That's a federal law that applies to any kid that goes to college or any kid that comes to this country on a student visa. So it's a lot bigger than anybody playing basketball. There's student visas, which are fairly easy to obtain, and there's work visas to come to America, which are very difficult to obtain. So the international players, I think like Dorka said, they come here to play basketball, and they come here to get an education. These are words right out of her mouth. So if you're a kid overseas and you're coming here for the NIL, stay home and sign a pro contract. And there's always going to be a disparity on your team. There's a disparity between Paige and AZ and every other American kid on the team. The disparity is the guys who have the most people wanting them are going to be the ones that benefit the most. You just have to figure out how to be that in that group. But, you know, we have no control over the NIL thing when it comes to international students. And will that ever even be addressed? I doubt it. So they can take advantage of it. They just can't do it while they're in the United States. So if they're in Canada or if they're in some other country while they're playing for us, they can take advantage of all those things.
One last question for Coach Auriemma in the back.
Hey, Coach. Jack Main from NBC5 News in Burlington. A program like Vermont, they've been, you know, in the past 20 lost seasons, and they're just finally getting their footing underneath them. This was their first tournament appearance in 13 years, and going up against the program that you run is a tremendous accomplishment for them. What do you see in their program that will allow them to continue to be successful moving forward, or what is something that they need to do to get themselves to the next level?
Well, I think the NCAA has to be a little more creative and stop sending them here. I think the last time they made the tournament, they were here. So, you know, it's close by. Well, there's a lot of those schools that were close by, you know. So I think they deserve better, you know. The league that they're in is probably going to dictate how high their ceiling is, just like it is for your men's team, right? That doesn't mean, though, that they can't become a consistent NCAA tournament team, which I think if you're playing in a one-bid league, it's hard as hell, okay? And I've been on a rampage about it. And just the fact that they have a tournament is stupid. Because Vermont next year could go undefeated, lose in the semifinals or the finals of their tournament, and they won't get a bid. So their ceiling is they need to win the tournament every year. Can they do that? Absolutely. It's a great school. They have access to a lot of kids, international or American kids. And I think their coaching staff is tremendous. I really do. I just think they have a sense of who they are, and what they want to be, and what they can do and what they can't do, and they don't try to do things they can't do. And they're very, very good at the things they can do. So when you have that going for you, you can go pretty far.
Thank you, Coach. Appreciate it.
Thanks, everybody.